When it comes to a label like analog horror, I feel like we're only just starting to scratch the surface of what is being created. As somebody who loves retro media so much, I feel like this genre as a whole really speaks to me. Question for you, what do you consider analog horror? Let me know in the comments and let's get cracking. Alrighty folks, how about we start off today with the most recent entry on our list, the Godzilla suit incident. YouTube user unknowingly has created an analog horror based on Godzilla, and I have to say, it's super fun. It feels like you're watching a 50s take on the creation of Frankenstein. An experiment that takes a turn for the worst. It follows a fictional development of the very first Godzilla film that was released in 1954. A man in the Godzilla suit films his scenes for the first time and grows a creepy obsession with the suit, refusing to take it off. The production crew jokes around that they never see his face, but as time passes, they're growing more and more concerned with the strange behavior of the guy in the suit. Then the crew witnesses a creepy moment, when the man stops acting during production. The crew try to gain his attention, they're like, okay, come on buddy, but he doesn't bother to address them. It's when they decide to remove the suit to look after the guy that they realize something much more sinister has occurred. The man's own skin has expanded to completely fill up the shape of the suit, his own body now becoming Godzilla himself. A downward spiral of chaos and death ensues as the production crew is stuck in the clutches of a monster among them. This plot might sound a little silly, but it's a very effective and haunting story of a guy who becomes a beast. It's a classic trope. Watching the man in the suit slowly lose his human self as the development of the Godzilla films progresses is a very scary sequence. What was once a fun experience for the cast and crew is now a terrifying reality. The guy goes from a scared victim of the suit to destroying so many lives around him, killing and traumatizing bystanders as he slowly loses his sanity. What really adds to the terror of this analog horror are the pictures that the photographers take during filming. This man has fully embraced his monstrous side. Whatever used to be there is gone. The story is so fun, and I think it's one of the best to ever grace the analog horror genre. So this follows the beast, but it also focuses on a cameraman with no name, who is determined to take down the monster that has ruined the lives of the production crew. Due to greed, good old corporate greed, the studio refuses to be rid of the man in the suit and forces the crew to be sucked into the horrific world of this beast. So the cameraman works together with a secret spy, who both begin to gather evidence of the creature. There are many moments that they witness their crew getting massacred in the most brutal ways, as the duo themselves attempts to survive each time they film. Yes, this plot device in the story kind of sounds a little unrealistic, but it can be pretty believable. Anybody is willing to do anything to put money in their pockets, even if many lives are lost. That's the beauty of the entertainment industry. Trust me folks, I've worked for enough big and small companies at this point, and I've endured some things in my day. Some stuff you just can't undo. Next up, an absolute classic, Gemini Home Entertainment. This is a horror anthology web series created by Remy Abode and is periodically released on a YouTube channel of the same name. It is regarded as a foundational block of the analog horror genre. So the main series, which is known as the full box set, is still ongoing. And also there have been other videos released as a part of a spin-off series titled Library, which contains shorter and secret episodes that don't follow the format of the main episodes, but they focus on exploring some of the more misunderstood and confusing concepts introduced in the main series. So it takes place in the 1980s and 90s, and it's presented as a collection of clips from VHS tapes, produced by a number of fictional companies and distributed by the titular company, Gemini Home Entertainment. As somebody who still owns a VHS player and a bookshelf full of tapes, this is definitely tickling my fancy right now. It combines elements of cosmic horror, surrealism, body horror, and mythology. The clips tell an overarching story of extraterrestrial invasion and an impending apocalyptic event. Which, hey, if you're watching me chatter right now, I'm assuming stuff like all of the above might just be your cup of tea, because that just sounds like a regular week for me. The VHS tapes are a mixture of educational clips, commercials, public service announcements, and home videos, produced by various fictional companies such as Regnac Computing and Optica Video. The motivations, morals, and content tends to vary between the companies though. The videos are complete with lo-fi music reminiscent of similar real-life videos, and I can't stress enough how incredible the levels of detail are. The different episodes are superficially self-contained, exploring topics such as wildlife, artificial intelligence, and the solar system, but together they build a cohesive narrative and serve to document the impending end of the world. The storyline of Gemini Home Entertainment features extraterrestrial invasion and parasite stuff, and also combines those cosmic horror elements I love so much, and body horror, and mythology. It's just I know, I already said it, but it's so fun. The series includes threats such as extraterrestrial creatures known as woodcrawlers using humans as vessels, a fictional infectious disease called deep root disease, and a fictional plant or fungus called nature's mockery that mutilates people it comes into contact with. So videos typically begin in a mundane way, by the way, before incorporating the horror elements. They gotta ease you into it. The series' central antagonist is the Iris, a sentient planet or planet-like entity which is masterminding an invasion of the solar system and is influencing life on Earth. Trust me when I say I know what I'll be binge watching when I get home tonight. Before I get distracted, how about we move on to the Walten Files? So this is an animated series on YouTube created by Martin Walls on a self-titled channel. 3 episodes have been created so far, with 2 non-canon episodes, hidden episodes, and a trailer. So similar to Gemini Home Entertainment, it's a series of VHS tapes, which explains why I'm drawn to it. I believe it's also inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's, yeah, when you think about it that way, it's very obvious, but it's just so cool. Alright, how about we go through season 1 together? So, spoiler alert, it all starts in 1974 when Jack Walten and Felix Kranken came up with the idea to create a restaurant aimed at young folks with robotic entertainment by the name of Bond's Burgers, and it would be under the management of Bunny Smiles Incorporated, or BSI. I'm sure you see the parallels already. On May 2nd, 1 month before the opening of the restaurant, Felix took Jack's offspring, Ed and Molly, to a school party. Now the school had hosted a fun drink section for the adults, and Felix imbibed. Sadly, when he was driving home later, his poor choices led to the death of both Ed and Molly. Out of irrational fear and guilt, he buried them in St. Juana's forest. After several hours, Jack was trying to call Felix, being like, "Yo, where's my spawn?" And Felix wasn't picking up the phone. Jack Walten was declared missing on June 11th. So the restaurant would open on June 28th, 17 days after his disappearance. And for 2 days after, the restaurant would host its first birthday party. That night, Susan Woodings would make an audio recording logging the day and the irregularities she noticed in Bond, the leader of the Showstoppers, which was the animatronic band used and operated by Cyberfun Tech to entertain customers. She goes on to state that she'd hopefully fix Bond and close for the night. Sometime afterwards, Bond would mutilate Woodings and stuff her into Banny. Charles, an unknown BSI employee, was killed on July 14th and stuffed into Boozoo. Rosemary Walten would often visit the establishment in hopes of finding her missing husband, although her attempts seemed to be futile. On July 19th, a voice emanated from behind the main stage of the Showstoppers. When Rosemary went backstage, Bond was waiting for her and proceeded to then dismember Rosemary and stuff her into Shaw. Sometime later that day, police reports were given from the Bond's Burgers location of an adult woman screaming from the back rooms, which prompted the employees to remove the animatronics from the main stage. The very last day they were open was the next day, July 20th, and only 2 families were given access to visit the restaurant, and that was the end. Shutters. The restaurant was boarded up, and later on, Felix created a vault intended to store any items from the location, which I think was completed around early December. By January of the next year, the animatronics from the restaurant had been moved into the facility. And I'll stop there. Like, yes, do I see the very obvious Five Nights at Freddy's similarities? Sure, but it's still a damn good watch. Speaking of analog classics, how on earth did you expect me to do a list without mentioning the Blair Witch Project? I know this is a controversial take, so please bear with me. Let me finish. So technically speaking, analog horror is a broad and sometimes confusing definition for a genre that has recently bloomed mainly on YouTube. But it didn't originate on the interwebs. The horror genre as a whole revels in exploring things that disturb and terrify the universal human subconscious. So one of the core pieces of this universal horror style is to twist the familiar and comfortable into the unsafe and horrifying. The Blair Witch Project, the pioneer of the found footage genre, is a movie with a handheld camera and has a lot of the hallmarks of an analog horror series. While the Blair Witch Project was set in the present day of the time, 1999, and used a camera from that time, it didn't capitalize on the nostalgia emphasis of analog horror, because at the time of production, there was no nostalgia for this time period. But however, the Blair Witch Project, viewed now, over 20 years later, does have this nostalgic element. Ergo, why I'm arguing that because of the medium, if one were to view it for the first time in today's day and age, I would consider that analog horror. Alrighty, how about we end today with Marble Hornets? So this is an alternate reality game YouTube web series inspired by Slender Man. The first video was posted on YouTube on June 20th of 2009, following a post that its creator, Troy Wagner, created on the Something Awful forum the previous day. It was the first web series to be created around the character, with the first episode premiering exactly 10 days after the appearance of the original images of Slender Man on the forums, and the first Marble Hornets affiliated post being, well, pretty quickly. So to date, I believe there are 92 videos on the main channel, and the series also has 38 accompanying videos from a side channel called To the Ark. The series follows Jay Merrick, played by Troy Wagner, who is a young man attempting to find out what happened during the filming of Marble Hornets, an unfinished student film project helmed by his friend, Alex Crayley, played by Joseph DeLage. Alex abruptly ended the project after only 3 months of production, left the tapes of raw footage with Jay, cut all contact with him, and then just transferred schools. So a couple years later, Jay decides to watch the tapes and begins uploading them to YouTube as entries. Through the footage, he discovers that the filming of Marble Hornets was hampered by the menacing presence of a humanoid figure known as the Operator. Now, the Operator appears to have constantly stalked Alex, including while he was on set with his actors, walking his dog to the park, and at his own home. Its presence seemed to cause Alex to develop coughing fits and severe paranoia, and as a result of said paranoia, Alex became more stressed, irritable, and aggressive towards cast members. Jay discovers that Alex began to constantly film himself with the hopes of catching the operator on camera. He also discovers that Alex's tapes have severe periodic audio and visual problems such as static, distortion, missing footage, and occasionally missing or inaudible audio. After Jay becomes more involved with the case, the operator begins invading Jay's personal life. So in response, Jay also sets up constant video surveillance in his home and begins posting the recordings to YouTube, alongside the footage from Alex's tape. His uploads often net cryptic and threatening responses from another mysterious YouTube channel, To The Ark, who posts videos with cryptic ciphers or messages, and utilizes the video reply feature to try and get Jay's attention. Honestly, seeing as there's 3 seasons, I could talk about this forever. It's so dang good. In 2015, a film spinoff, Always Watching, was released, but the critical reception was so just stick to the original. And that brings us to the end of our time, and I know what I'm watching before bed tonight. I've been Alexa, your resident ookie spooky girly, and if you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more analog chitter chatter from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.